It's time for Real Estate 101 with the Karey Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors.
Good morning. This is Karey Brown, broker-owner of Realty Executives Preferred Advisors, and you're listening to Real Estate 101. This morning, I'm here with Thomas Hall. Good morning, Thomas.
Good morning.
Thomas is with Eagle Aerial Solutions, LLC, and had the pleasure of working with Thomas. He did a video for me on a house that I have listed out on Southwest Urish. For a family that, we just wanted to get the full overview of what that house looked like because it is really cool. And he did a phenomenal job. So I asked him to come on the radio show. So I want you guys to hear about him because there are a lot of really great ways to use aerial video and photos. So Thomas, tell us, number one, how did you get started?
I got started back in 2017. I graduated from Washburn with an accounting degree in May of 17, and after that, I decided to pursue a business because the whole reason why I wanted to go to college was so that I wasn't the guy on the bottom. I wanted to be the guy on the top, and what other way to do it than run your own company? And I had been working with drones for about 6 months at that time, and I purchased another drone, and I was able to actually become very skilled at flying around, capturing video, and taking photographs. I had learned photography when I was growing up in 4-H, and it was a talent that I had. In order to operate commercially as a drone pilot, you have to be certified by the FAA, and what that entails is you have to take an aeronautical knowledge test. They give you 60 questions, and you have to score at least a 70. I got a 90, so I was good to go. They then take the results, and they send them off to do a TSA background check to make sure that you're not a terrorist, that you're not going to be doing this in an ill-fashioned manner. And then within a week, they give you a temporary approval. 2 months later, they send you an actual card in the mail, and you have your actual full certification, and you're ready to go. But once I received the temporary certification, I was like, I didn't have any excuse not to move forward. So I created my business, put everything together, and it was really interesting how the first job came along because I was working in PTs on some photos, because when you're a new company, you got to start pushing out your stuff because the number one enemy to business is obscurity. If people don't know you exist, you aren't going to get anyone. I was sitting in PT's coffee shop on College Hill next to Washburn, and I overheard a conversation of somebody talking about creating video and photo, and then I heard the word drones. It kind of sticks out for me. And I interrupted and apologized for overhearing their conversation, and it turned out that it was somebody that owned a video studio here in town. And I was like, well, shoot, they own a video studio. I'm thinking to myself, they don't need me, and so I didn't put a whole lot of stock into it, but I gave them my card and we traded our cards and everything. And about a month later, I received a phone call from them, and they wanted me to shoot a drone video for them. They didn't need a whole production or anything, but they had this one clip that they wanted where it was in front of Washburn Rural High School, and they wanted me to do a pullback where we start down in front and we pull back to about 200 feet, and it does a nice, really pretty reveal of the school. And that was the first job that I got.
That's awesome. So you talk about getting certified. How hard is that test?
The test, most people, they actually have programs that you can pay for to do online courses to study for it. And because that's a business in itself, is training for it. I actually didn't take that route because one of the things that I learned going to school at Washburn is sometimes you don't learn everything in class, and so you have to find that information elsewhere. And there is tons of free information on YouTube. There was great videos on YouTube. They walk you through everything, and I studied that in addition to the FAA material that they gave out online. And we went and I took the test up at Olathe Executive Airport. You have to pay a $150 fee to take the test. And you want to make sure you nail it the first time, because if you don't, you have to take 2 weeks, and then you have to pay another $150 to take it. So it's in your best interest to make sure you're studied up.
It's the same thing with real estate. If you have to take the test again, it's $75 to take the test, another $75 to take it again. And if you pass one, it's still the same price to go back and take it and try and pass that other one. So no half price if you passed one. Absolutely. So the test and marketing and everything, with drones, to me, I just see all kinds of possibilities, all kinds of cool stuff that you can do. Have you ever considered doing like farms, like overhead farms? I know we talked about it before we started, about the old planes whenever they would fly by and take pictures. Have you done that yet?
It's kind of interesting that you mentioned farms, because about a month ago, I worked with Gizmo Pictures, and we went out to Goodland to shoot a commercial for Nextech Wireless. And you think, Nextech Wireless, what does that have to do with farms, right? Well, farmers now, their technology on their tractors is so advanced that they have computers in their tractors, and they can drive the tractor out to the field, and they don't even have to, once they get it in the field, they hook it up to the GPS, they put in their program that they want to do, whether it's fertilizing, whether it's plowing, and the tractor does it all by itself. But a lot of these technologies require cellular service, and Nextech Wireless is a big cellular provider in western Kansas. And so we had several shots that we included that had a tractor in them, as well as how else are you going to get a video of the top of a cell phone tower? You surely can't shoot it from the ground. It just doesn't have the same effect as actually being right up there. And there's only one way to do it that's really safe. And so that's what we did out there. With that, it also provides an opportunity, because a lot of the people that I ended up running into with working on this project, they wanted to know, they asked the question. A lot of people back 10, 20 years ago, they had people that would come and fly around their properties, and they would shoot a photo of their property from above, and then they would go around and try and sell those photos. Well, an airplane or a helicopter costs a lot of money to put in the air. I mean, you're looking at several $1,000s, and so they have to sell a lot of photos to recoup that cost. Nowadays, with drones, the cost to do it is much less. It's much less, and so it's also a lot safer. The quality that we can get with the drones is the biggest aspect that most people are interested in, because when you have a helicopter or a plane up in the air, it's moving a lot in addition to the cost. And we have drones that you can put in the air, and you can get 24 megapixel photos, and it's really, really nice cameras. And it's a lot better than what they had back in the 80s and the 90s when I was growing up, because back then they were using film. Nowadays, with the digital technology, that's just allowed us to do so much more, because I can go to a property and I can shoot 200 photos of the property, and I can go through and pick the best one, and then I can really edit that to make sure that the color is accurate and it looks beautiful for the client.
Absolutely. I know that the one you did for us on 5734 Southwest Euros, which, by the way, is still for sale and has had a significant price reduction to $599.9. So this place is huge, and if you like cars or work in your shop, the shop is massive. Concrete floor, check it out. Go to our Facebook page, Realty Executives Preferred Advisors, and check that property out. And you can actually see his work there, because we do have the drone video there. Or you can check it out on our website and see the actual photos that he did, and that's preferredadvisorsteam.com. But with that being said, obviously you're doing some real estate too. And whenever he did that, so you could literally, even the neighbors could use that video, because they could hold it up. It showed all the neighboring houses, the land. It really shows, it was really cool, because you could see how your neighbors really aren't that close. Behind you, it's all open, and it just it was really cool just to watch in itself. And the video, the clarity was so good.
My objective when I put together a video for a real estate client like that is I want people to see what the property looks like, not only from above, but I shoot some of the video from normal height level, from 5 foot in the air, because I show the perspective of what it would look like coming down the driveway, what it would look like walking up to the house, whether it's coming up to the garage or going out to that huge shop. It's a big shop in the back. People, it's nice to get the video from above, because you can see everything, But you also need to have the video that shows what it's going to be like from their perspective as well, because that's where they're going to be at the whole time. They're not always going to see it from above. So it's really important to include those shots, but it's also important to include the aerial shots so you can get an idea of how much space there is on the property. And then I always include a little orbit video of flying around the property as high as I can get, which is, with our regulations, is 400 feet. That way you can also see how your house or that property fits in with the neighborhood, how much space you have between your neighbors or how close they are,
It really is. It's neat just to watch, number one, but the clarity of the video and all the colors, and it's very crisp. And I mean, you take a really high-tech camera and you can get that, but not in motion. So it's really cool. Yes, I say cool a lot. So obviously, before we started rolling, I was talking about a property that I have that I would love to do it with, but he's a contractor. He has a lot of stuff that's still outside of the shop, and we were talking about the fact that you could edit that out.
Well, and it would be with everything that I shoot a lot of video, because I'm going to end up shooting probably about 30 minutes of video, 40 minutes of video. Each flight that I do, it lasts about 20 to 25 minutes because of battery length. And then I bring it down, I change the batteries out, and I put it back up in the air, and we go again. It takes about 5 minutes to do a swap. And then we go again. And I always end up with probably about 30, 40 minutes of video. But nobody's going to watch a 30 or 40-minute video.
Not a chance.
People have things to do.
Yeah.
And they're going to get bored, And so what I do is I go through and I take the highlights. I take the best clips. And if there's something that isn't flattering about a property, that's not necessarily something we're going to include in the video. It's not that we're hiding it, because we don't do that. We don't hide things, but we use what we can capture to get your clients to call you, to get them attracted to the property, to get them interested because they see something that's really nice about the property that they like, and then once they call you, then you can show them around the house, you can show them the property, and then that's a better time to have a conversation about that piece of obscurity that you don't want to show in the video.
Absolutely. And, it kind of helps the sellers, too, because sometimes they just don't have a place to put that. The bigger properties are typically the farms or the contractors that, it just is what it is. Okay, so let's talk about actually flying a drone, because to me, things like that are intimidating. I do have one. I've honest to goodness never flown it. My 17, now 18-year-old, he has. I think he's the only person. There are a lot of different degrees of technology as far as what they're like, but what's it like?
Flying a drone is basically like flying a remote control helicopter. You have a controller and you have two sticks, and then you have some dials that you have to work with. With a controller, your left stick, you have up and down, and then rotating left and right. Your right stick is actually moving forward, backward, moving left and right without rotating. And then you have knobs on the front, because the camera, it has up and down motion, and the side-to-side is controlled by turning the drone. And so you have to be able to operate basically in 3 dimensions and be coordinated like that. And that's really where growing up and playing video games growing up really helped me out a lot, because you have to be coordinated. You have to have that eye-hand coordination. And so when I'm up there and I'm flying, I don't even really think about it. My hands just kind of run on their own. And what I look at is I have to keep a lot of things in mind. When I go up and fly, the first thing I have to do is make sure that where I'm flying at is a place that I can legally fly at. We have 2 different airports here in Topeka.
So you talk about flying, and I know we talked about that before we came on the show, but tell us about the areas that you can't fly, what that looks like, what you need to get, all those different things, so that you can do this legally.
Once you're a certified drone operator, then you have to look at where you can fly in the United States. In Topeka, for example, we have 2 airports. We have Billard Airport, and we have Topeka Regional Airport. or known as Forbes Field. And they are both what's called Class D airspace, which means for Billard, from the ground all the way up to 3,400 feet, it's controlled airspace from the middle of the airport out 5 miles. At Topeka Regional, it's controlled airspace from the ground up to 3,600 feet from the center of the airport out 5 miles. And you have to be able to work in those areas sometimes because we have property there. We have things that we have to shoot video there. I have done a lot of videos and photos of the Capitol and downtown. And even if you're flying between the buildings at 8th and Kansas, it is still controlled airspace, even though you are never going to encounter a helicopter or a plane there. So the way that you work and do that legally is you have to have a certificate of authorization from the FAA. And they have a new system that they've rolled out this year that they're implementing across the country that gives you instant authorization to fly using a mobile app. However, it has not been implemented in Topeka yet, so you still have to have the certificate of authorization. And to get a certificate of authorization, you have to request it from the FAA. You have to tell them what your operation is, where you're operating at, where you want to operate at, your altitude, what you're using, all of your procedures, your safety things that you use to do your work, and it takes 3 months to get.
Wow.
So there's a process there. You want to make sure that you get those in before you actually need them. I requested them in November and received them at the end of January. They were good until the end of September, and so you needed to renew them since they aren't using the instant authorization system. Well, after several emails back and forth with the FAA, we were able to get extensions for them for another year. So we're good to go in Topeka. We don't have any problems there. Now, in order for somebody to understand that and see how it looks, that's part of what it takes to be certified, because you have to read a VFR chart. And if anybody wants to look it up, if you're listening right now, you can go to vfrmap.com, and it'll bring up a map of this area, and you can see where those controlled airspaces are, as well as on airmap.com. It'll show you what the controlled airspace is.
That is really interesting. So, I mean, it makes sense that you would go ahead and get that for a year, but obviously if you're pushed to do it. Let's talk about what would happen if you didn't have all of those authorizations and you were flying a drone.
So if you don't have those authorizations, if you didn't even bother to get certified, you would be in violation of federal law. You would be subject to penalty by the FAA, which can be very high, depending upon if it's an individual, a corporation, or something else, another entity. We actually did a story last year with Melissa Bruner with WIBW where we talked about the penalties that are involved in flying drones illegally. And it's not just the matter of the FAA. You have to take into consideration when you put a drone in the air, you have other manned aircraft in the air. You have helicopters. In Topeka, you have Lifestar that flies to the hospitals. You have low-flying aircraft that are taking off and landing at Billard and at Forbes. And it's not about just keeping those planes safe and keeping them from hitting a drone, but what if your drone caused one of those planes to come down and hit somebody on the ground? If you don't know the proper procedures to go through to get authorization, then you're putting not only the people in the air at risk, but you're putting the people on the ground at risk as well. Once you have those certifications like our company does, then you still have to follow more procedures before you can even get a drone in the air. You have to call the airport, and you have to talk to air traffic control, and you have to tell them who you are and what your operation is. They will check to make sure that you have a certificate of authorization. And then once they find that, they'll give you the approval if there is not going to be any traffic in your area. But why it is important, more than anything, to call the airport and let them know is so that they know, so that when they're directing traffic, air traffic here in Topeka or wherever you're located at, that they can account for you and make sure that they're not going to send a plane through the airspace that you're operating in, which keeps everyone safe. And it's not just the safety either. I mean, it comes down to ethics. what do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known for operating legally and ethically? Because you can operate legally and not ethically. But do you want to do the right thing, or is that not important to you? And for my company, that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. I know whenever I got mine, I had not read through. It was an impulse buy because they had them for like a quarter of what the price was. And so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and get it, and then I'll see what goes into it. And then my son played with it a little bit outside of our house and literally didn't go over our roof because I'm like, I don't know the rules. Don't do anything dumb. So he said it went over just over the deck just a little bit, and he said, and then it looked like it was going to crash. So he put it back in the box because he didn't want to tear it up, and that is where it has remained. So I could see how it would be pretty easy to think you know what you're doing, and then I started reading the rules, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not ever going to do this. I should probably sell that thing. But when it comes down to it, I mean, it's really cool. There are a lot of really great things to do with it. But you are right. You've really got to understand the rules. When it came to real estate, there was a period of time there that there was a little bit of gray area as to what you could do and what you couldn't do.
I've even run into real estate agents who have, they have their full real estate business and they want to do the drone work on their own. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But just because you go out and buy a drone and you take the test and you get certified and say you can do all that, that doesn't mean that you necessarily know anything about photography or creating videos. There is a lot to learn, and my forte was photography. I've had to learn so much about videos, but I've had some really good mentors that have helped guide me and teach me the skills that I needed in order to put together the work that I have. And so it's really important that you think about all of those factors, because it takes a lot of investment, it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of work. Usually companies are best doing what they're best at. And if what you're good at doing is selling homes, you might think about farming that work out to another company that does it better than you can. I mean, if you want to spend the time and learn the skills and everything, more power to you. But if your time is more valuable selling homes and connecting with people, then you might think about putting that cost off to another company that does it really well.
That goes for taking pictures, too. I can't tell you how many times we've seen pictures of just corners of rooms, and it's like, okay, and what was that? So there's a lot of things that people shouldn't probably do.
Another thing that we can do with drones, which is less well known, is we can use a drone inside of a house for a video. With the drones, the reason why we get a stable video footage is because it has what's called a gimbal on it. And so when you have a drone and it's hovering and it's flat, everything's easy. You point your camera down at the angle to frame the house and the picture, and then in order to move the drone, well, it's got to tilt left, or it's got to tilt right, or it's got to tilt forward, but that camera angle doesn't change. And so the computer compensates for the movement of the drone so that you get that silky smooth footage. The same thing applies inside of a house. Obviously, we're not going to fly the drone inside the house because we don't want to take a risk at causing any damage. The props on the drone, they spin at 500 to 1,000 RPMs. Now, that is a very dangerous place to be at. That's one of the reasons why we don't fly over people's heads either. Because if a drone came down and hit somebody in the head, you could literally kill them. And that's the last thing that you want to have happen. Inside a house, with the drone, with the prop spinning, you would have the risk of tearing up the house, tearing up a wall, and you don't need that problem either. But what we can do is we can turn the drone on, not put propellers on it, not engage the motors, but we actually carry the drone the same way that they would with like a Ronin or a Steadicam. We carry the drone, and the gimbal on the drone keeps the footage stable so that we can get the same shots, the same smooth shots that we get outside, inside the house as well.
Well, that's a really neat idea. I know, I've talked to sellers about this before because you see like Matterport Matterport and other things like that, and everybody has an opinion. So some of them make people dizzy. You know, you get that whole bird's eye view, and you can turn sideways, and they're like, yeah, I can't even get through the first couple of seconds. And I really like the slideshows, but I think it would be really good if it was just a smooth, steady stream. That's a really great idea. And
just like what we do with the house on the outside, where it shows the perspective of you coming up to the house, walking up to the door, we do the same thing inside the house, where you're walking into a room and you see what it looks like, as if you were there yourself.
Absolutely. I know I've been doing that recently with Facebook Live, and that is actually a pretty good thing. I mean, people like to watch that, so they do like video more so than just stills. So definitely a great idea. Okay, so we're about out of time, so what I would like to do is have you tell everybody, number one, how to get a hold of you.
So if you would like to call my company and find out what we can do to help you to get your houses sold faster, you can reach us. Our phone number is 785-260-6476, or you can find us at our website, which is eagleaerialworld.com. That's EAGLEAERIAL world.com. And you can also find our company, Eagle Aerial Solutions LLC, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on YouTube.
And if you're looking to buy or sell a house, be sure and give us a call at 785-213-5188. Check out our website at preferredadvisorsteam.com. Again, we're on 4 MLSs. It's all on there. You can check out clear up to the Nebraska border. Manhattan is consumed way out west and clear up to the Nebraska border. And Topeka has consumed way down to Emporia, and Kansas City goes into Missouri. So we have a large spectrum of homes to look at, which is also useful whenever we go to sell a house, because we also put your home in front of all of those real estate agents. So instead of being in front of about 600 agents, you're in front of about 9,000. So be sure and give us a call, 785-213-5188. You're welcome to email me at kareybrownteam@gmail.com. Thanks for listening to Real Estate 101.
This is Stephen Parkin at Invista Credit Union. Purchasing a home is one of the most exciting and important decisions someone can make. Let me tell you why Invista is the best choice for financing your new home purchase. First, quick pre-approval process. Our fast decision-making gives you the power to act quickly and make an offer on your dream home. Second, local servicing. We service your mortgage in-house. You won't get a long-distance runaround, but a committed professional whose only job is to help you. Third, experienced team. We are dedicated to simplifying the process and educating you through the home buying process. Come by Invista. It's okay to dream. In fact, it's encouraged. We are your home buying partner. Give us a call at 785-228-0149.
Southwest Topeka has a good neighbor. State Farm agent Jim Garrison, now at 29th and Urish. If your current insurance situation has you going around in circles, get off the roundabout and stop in and meet Jim and his wonderfully efficient staff. Let Jim Garrison give you a quote and make the Garrison comparison. He's confident that with State Farm's competitive rates, the right coverage, and his unmatched service, you'll want to make him your new insurance agent. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and Jim Garrison is there for you, northeast of the roundabout at 29th and Urish.
Thank you for listening to Real Estate 101 with the Karey Brown team from Realty Executives Preferred Advisors.